the PT cotton in Homa Bay County by Judith Ombok from Homa Bay County. This is the partnership that we developed when we went around the county forums. So we went to Homa Bay County. One of the county was Homa Bay County, Embu County, Kilifi County, and was in Gishu County. So I want to invite Judith Ombok to give us the county transformational agenda, the PT Cotton, what PT Cotton has done in Homa Bay County. Ombok, if you are around, please. If you can take us in the next 30 minutes, we'll appreciate.
Good afternoon. It's not easy to present immediately after lunch. I hope people will be attentive. Thank you. My name is Ombok Mildred Judith. I'm the County Chief Officer for Agriculture in Homa Bay County, the county of endless potential. Receive greetings from Her Excellency the Governor, Gladys Wanga. I was asked to come and share on the county transformational agenda in the area of BT cotton in Homa Bay. Just to give a background information, cotton was introduced in Kenya in the earlier years of 1900. It reached the western part of Kenya where Homa Bay is through the establishment of the railway line. As at that time, cotton was not readily acceptable by the people around that area. Our people are very practical people, and if you tell them to plant something they will not eat, they don't take it kindly. So cotton received some backlash at that point. However, with time it was embraced, and by the time the industry was collapsing, Homa Bay was one of the leading regions in cotton production in Kenya. On the county transformational agenda, the transformational agenda of Homa Bay County is anchored mainly on agriculture and aquaculture. The current county government is alive to the fact that Kenya has only 6% of the Lake Victoria. The entire Lake Victoria, Kenya hosts just 6% of it. But of the 6% that Kenya hosts, 80% is in Homa Bay. So Homa Bay accounts for 80% of the Kenyan Lake Victoria. And that explains why our transformational agenda is anchored majorly on agriculture, because we utilize the lake for irrigation purposes, and then aquaculture for the reasons that you and me will agree on, that the fish from Homa Bay is the sweetest of all that you can ever taste. So the county therefore intends to utilize the great potential offered by the lake and favorable agroecological conditions to transform the lives of the people of Homa Bay. Because of limited resources faced by most administrations and the great plans that the county government has for her people, we acknowledge that we cannot be leaders in every sector. As a result, we have chosen to cut our niche in certain value chains that will transform the economy of the lakeside county. So some of the priority value chains that we have chosen as a county to cut our niche on are cotton, edible oils, where we have sunflower, groundnuts, oil palm, soya beans, and canola, and of course, aquaculture. But we have not turned our backs to other issues that can transform our economy. I'll just mention in passing the tourism sector in Homa Bay. This is not the main point for today, but allow me to mention that Homa Bay is the home of the only endangered Roan antelope in Kenya at the Ruma National Park. So if you ever long to see the Roan antelope, you come to Homa Bay. And we have many other tourism attraction sites. And before this session, I was discussing with one of us that the 13th annual Biosafety conference should be held in Homa Bay. And of course, we have other value chains that we have not turned our backs to, like the sweet potatoes of Homa Bay. If you dare to check or Google, you'll find that the late Queen of England ate the sweet potato from Homa Bay. And of course, the home of the sweetest pineapples here in Kenya. So as I continue with the transformational agenda, and today I will select the cotton, County Government of Homa Bay is channeling all her efforts in the reviving of the cotton sector in the county and in the country. I'll explain why. We focus on being not just cotton producers, but leaders in cotton production in the country. Our goal is to produce half of the country's cotton need, because we can. So 2 days ago, Her Excellency the Governor launched a project dubbed Pamba Mwandu. Pamba Mwandu can loosely be translated as cotton wealth. Cotton is the only value chain we have sat down and discovered that as a county, if we wanted to transform the lives of our people and ensure that money is circulating in Homa Bay, that people have money in their pockets and food on their table, then cotton is wealth. So in this Pamba Mwandu project that we launched just 2 days ago, the county was able to supply to, not really supply, but to support our farmers with 10 metric tons of BT cotton seeds. And we give much appreciation to our supporters and other stakeholders like AFA. AFA gave us part of that seed that we launched 2 days ago. Rivertex, Rift Valley Products have been working closely with us, and that shows you how we are open to partnerships and to work both with the national government and any like-minded organizations that would like to show up in our journey to transform the cotton sector in this country. So this project aims not only to give seeds, but to follow up, offer extension services, and monitor each farmer and the production of cotton from farm to fashion. That is what we are looking at. So the Pamba Mwandu project is geared to revive, revitalize, and revolutionize the cotton sector in the county and in the country. So why BT cotton in Homa Bay? Why BT cotton? BT cotton was introduced in Homa Bay County in 2021. It is only about 3 years old. This was after it was shown that this variety is resistant against Lepidopteran insect pests, pink Lepidopteran insect pests, and tobacco budworms. And the research was done by one Waturu et al., Waturu and others. And then the adoption of BT cotton variety promises to reduce significantly the use of chemicals in pest control management practices. And even as I proceed with this presentation, it is important to note that we present from the user's point of view, from the user's perspective, because we have used BT cotton now as a county for about 3 years. So we've discovered that the spraying sessions in BT cotton reduces significantly from 12 spray sessions for the OPV to the 3 spray sessions for BT cotton. So this lowers the cost of production, protects the environment, and of course increases the farmer's profit margin. And as we continue on why BT cotton in Homa Bay, we have segmented this into 5 perspectives. Number 1 is the yield. that in the case of Homa Bay, BT cotton has been shown to yield more than the OPV varieties that we have been traditionally planting in the region. While the average yield for OPV varieties is about 800 kilograms per acre, BT cotton produces up to 1,500 kilograms, sometimes to 2,000 kilograms per acre, with good agricultural practices and integrated pest management. Why is this important to us as a county? This is important to us because, as I mentioned, we seek to be leaders in the cotton production in this country. This year, the county has a target to plant cotton in 19,600 acres. In the last farmer registration exercise, we registered a total of 43,009 acres to be put under cotton. So our potential is 43,009 acres. And we seek to plant this by and by, starting with 19,600 acres this year. So this year, I think it is also important to mention to you, for your information purposes, that the county has so far planted 5,000 acres under the OPV variety and about 1,500 acres under BT variety. But as I mentioned that we just launched 10 metric tons 2 days ago, we think, or we've calculated and found that the 10 metric tons will plant 6,666 acres. So that means that the total land under cotton by the end of this season in Homa Bay will be 12,999 acres, or 13,000 thereabout. Of course, that means we still have a deficit to meet in this year. And if any of you know any like-minded organizations or partners that can help us to get the cotton seeds to plant in the deficit that we have for the year, which is 6,601, the partnership is welcome. So we have seen that the yield is indeed good. We have looked at the germination rate, and we have discovered that germination rate of BT cotton is about 98% at 2 seeds per hill and 1.5 kilogram per acre. On the other hand, conventional cotton has a germination rate of 50%, 6 seeds per hole, and 6 kilograms per acre. Days to harvest, BT cotton is early maturing, flowering at 3 months and ready for harvest at 5 months. It's also climate smart. In this era of erratic rainfalls, we don't want to do trials and errors. We want to do things that we know are able to help our people within the period that they need to be helped. County governments don't have the luxury of time because this first term is already 2 years gone. So we need to do something to transform the lives of our people, and climate smart agriculture is one of those things that will help us. And so BT cotton leverages on that. And the BT strides for the last 20 years, biotechnology has made important positive socioeconomic and environmental contributions. Key among them, reduced use of chemicals up to 37%, increased crop yield by 22%, increased farmer profit margins by 68%. So our reason as a county, our reason to embrace BT cotton, we discovered that developing countries like Kenya, and by extension counties like Homa Bay, seeks to benefit more than developed countries like China and India. And that is as per research. This has informed the decision by the county government of Homa Bay to embrace BT cotton, because we have discovered that the BT cotton will give us the yields that we need for us to cut our niche because we want to, for climate smart, and for days to harvest because we don't have the luxury of time, and to transform the lives of our people. We choose to embrace the BT cotton as Homa Bay County. However, there are emerging issues that we wouldn't want to close our eyes to. It must be noted that BT cotton variety is relatively new in Homa Bay County, and we are yet to understand its long-term effects on the soil and environment. There's need to be prepared to study its impact on the livelihood of our farmers, as we focus on its impact on the environment. This calls for collaboration between all the stakeholders to watch out for a few issues. And at this point, I want to really thank the National Biosafety Authority. They visited us in Homa Bay. We had elaborate discussions on the matters of BT cotton, and we got to understand more than just what we hear. And we were able to separate myths from the reality. So, but we want to say that it is important that we watch out for insect-resistant management, which is the main driver of resistance in BT cotton. The main driver of resistance in BT cotton is higher percentage of BT cotton planted against non-BT variety. So there's need to develop refuge areas of non-BT cotton to limit resistance in targeted pests. Another thing is about the seed prices and availability, and I think this was mentioned just shortly before our lunch. BT cotton seeds are way much expensive and is not easily available compared to the OPV variety. This has hindered uptake and adoption of BT cotton. There is need for commercialization of BT seeds by local agro-dealers, because currently farmers don't really know where to get the BT cottons. Farmers in Homa Bay, if it was not for the provision of the 10 metric tons that the county and other stakeholders have given, they probably would not even know where else can they get the BT cotton seeds, because it's not available in the local agro-dealers. Then the regulatory compliance. There's need for compliance monitoring by regulatory authorities to ensure that genes do not cross over to the world population. Risk assessment of BT cotton. There is need to do continuous assessment on BT cotton on the following parameters. The history of safe use of BT cotton as food and animal feed, because you understand that we need to use this cotton seed cake for other things. And in fact, Homa Bay County is focusing not only on the cotton production, but all-round use of the entire cotton product. And as a result, we are currently in a partnership with Rift Valley Products to establish a ginnery in Homa Bay, because we have discovered that much of our cotton go out, and so we don't get to benefit from the cotton seed cake. So we want to have the a ginnery in Homa Bay so that we are able to use the cotton seed cake also for animal feeds and food. Then determination of BT cotton as non-allergenic potential. Determination of BT cotton as non-toxic, both to human population and environment. The effect of pollen-mediated transfer between BT cotton and OPV cotton, since it has been established that this usually occurs. And just to put a disclaimer, and I had earlier mentioned this, from the user's perspective, we have only used the BT cotton for about 3 years, and so we cannot authoritatively report on the long-term effects. Thank you.
Thank you. We can appreciate taking us through that experience in Homa Bay County, and also thank you for coming and the collaboration that we have started as the NBA and the Homa Bay County. So thank you. So we'll have questions and answers after the second presentation, and I'm requesting, we are having some changes in the program. We were to have a post-release monitoring of BT cotton in Kenya by Julia Njagi from NBA, but I'm requesting that we have the experiences with BT cotton farming in Kenya, a presentation that was to be done tomorrow, so that we have a connection between the Homa Bay County and the experiences of the farmer. So Daniel Magondu, I'm giving you this chance to take us through the experiences with BT cotton farming in Kenya, so that we have that continuity. And then tomorrow, the presentation that was for Julia, it will be done tomorrow. So Magondu, if you can take us through in less than 30 minutes.
Oh. Thank you, Director. Once more, I feel very humbled and very much encouraged. To start with, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, as you have been told, my name is Daniel Magodu, and mine is only to give the experience of BT cotton farming since it entered in our country, Kenya. Well, if I may start there before BT cotton came in place, we used to grow the conventional cotton or the traditional cotton, that is Hati 89M. That is grown east of Rift Valley. West of Rift Valley, we used to grow KSA 81M. And during that time, the cotton production at the first was very good because the seeds were brought by the carro, but after a long while, the seeds, I think the variety, the production started coming down. And the cotton bollworm was the major reason for the cotton going down, because when you planted cotton and you fail to apply pest controls over 12 times in a season, you'll either get nothing or very poor harvest. And at times you find that as a farmer, you start with money, you end up with nothing, because most of the monies has been spent in the pest control applications in your farm. The other point is that with the introduction of BT cotton, it came when the cotton industry was on a deathbed. And if you want to ascertain that, there before we had 22 cotton ginaries in the Republic, but right now I think it is only 5 in operation. After introduction of BT cotton, the farmers started seeing the benefit from the biotechnology, from the new biotechnology of BT cotton. And after planting, I found that in a plot where I used to get just 300 kilos, I could get 1 ton plus. Tell me, if it were you, could you go back to the conventional cotton? At the same time, cotton growing, the BT cotton growing has made so many farmers, because yes, so before we have farmers across over 20 cotton growing counties, farmers growing cotton and others growing the food crop with wheat. Now those people who are growing BT cotton have realized that the genetically modified cotton has a lot of benefits, because I said the first thing is the seed. Green seeds we have from the genetically modified cotton. The second one is germination. Germination is 85 to 95%. When you come to pest control applications, we control only 3 pests. That is cotton stainer, land spider mites, and aphid. Only the sucking insects. And we apply pest control we apply 3 times in a season against 12 times of the conventional cotton. When you come to maturity, it matures in 4 to 5 months, you find that you are in the market against 9 to 10 months of the convection of cotton. Meaning that a BT cotton farmer can go in the market twice in a year. Okay, when you come to production, in a plot where I used to get 300 kilos, I'm getting almost 3-folds. Why should I go back to 300 kilos when I have already tested the increased production from the BT technology? This has made many farmers to think of the BT maize because they are expecting the BT maize to produce the same as the BT cotton has been producing. And can I tell you that the major problem we have is accessing the seeds to plant. Kenya is very potential. We have got a very large area where cotton can do very well, but seeds are a problem, and our officers from Homa Bay has attested this. If it was not because of the government that bought the seeds for them, they could not have planted, and still the seeds are not sufficient. When I come to the benefits of cotton, many farmers who started growing BT cotton other countries of the world, farmers in other countries where they have adopted the technology are benefiting with the GM technology when Kenyans are languishing in poverty. I want to say that if those people who are now strong enough and they are in the institutions, if they were there during late 1970s to 1980s, they could be knowing that cotton is a very valuable crop and it can do a lot of work. So my appeal is to get to the institutions where we have youths who are born from 1990 after the cotton dropped. Try to make them understand that cotton is a valuable crop because they are now the energetic people that a 4 years young man can do a lot of work. And by so doing, we are going to revive our dormant textile industries. Cotton, if I come to cotton, it has a lot of benefits. The lint is taken to the ants and they produce their clothes and what have you. When we come to the seed, that is the key. We have edible oils, we have cotton seed cake, which is fed to the cow, and then we get the milk. And on top of that, the money you have, that note, it cannot stand without cotton linters. And that's the reason why you find that if it falls in water, the note after taking it to the sun, it comes back. So even those who are working in the mint, I know they can be able to buy the nutrients from our industry. I'll stop there, assuring you that the cotton can be a game changer in our Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Farmer, for taking us through the experience of PT Cotton. And because we've saved on time, and tomorrow is half day, we can still have the post-release monitoring of PT Cotton in Kenya, presentation by Ms. Julian Jagi from NBA, so that questions will come, because most of the concerns also will be covered by the post-release monitoring program of PT Cotton by NBA. So Julian Jagi, please come and make that presentation on post-release monitoring of PT Cotton in Kenya.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to take you through a very short presentation on BT Cotton post-release monitoring. And that is what we have been doing since we've had this cotton with the farmers. You've had an opportunity to listen to the story from Homa Bay and also from Kirinyaga, which is a county where I happen to come from. So I can collaborate Mr. Magondu's stories. I've seen it firsthand. So to start you off, I just want to highlight some of the objectives on why we do post-release monitoring. It is a requirement under the Biosafety Act. And it is also something that is also prescribed under the Cartagena Protocol, and especially in areas where you have some uncertainties. So one of the remedies is to ensure that you have risk management strategies in place as well as monitoring. So it is an early warning system to identify any adverse effect or something that was never picked during risk assessment. Because remember, before this approval is given, this has to be taken through the full risk assessment. It is the responsibility of the applicant to do monitoring, but that has not stopped NBA and other relevant agencies to do. So we do this jointly with KEFIS, and the data that we collect and the data that is received from the applicant forms a package that informs any subsequent approvals. Because remember, this one is, the monitoring is done in phases, up to the point where we consider this crop to be, or this GM to be deregulated. There are general monitoring indicators, something that we follow once we go to the field. And one of them is the impacts this BT cotton is likely to have on the non-target organisms. Because remember, the technology is developed to kill the bollworms. So should it veer off and start killing the bees and any other insect, then that becomes a concern. We also want to know whether there's any impacts on the target organisms. And the target organisms, we talk about impacts when they start developing the resistance, and this can only happen if you have a trait breakdown. The other one is the issues of secondary infestation. In most cases, you find that in addition to the pests that you're targeting, and not necessarily to do with GMOs, even in the normal or conventional cropping systems, you have one, you're using maybe a pesticide against one pest, but then there's a reemergence of another pest, and that is what we call secondary infestation. So are there any reported cases like such by farmers? We also want to know, are there reported cases of hybridization and introgression? Not that it's a bad thing, because remember, these technology has already been approved as safe. So the issues of spread and escape, is there likelihood that this GM is going to become a weed or persist in the environment, especially in unmanaged ecosystems. So one of the requirements as NBA that we ask from the applicant before they are given an approval is that they must have a monitoring plan. And that plan must have objectives, because you cannot just go out there to the field without an objective. You also need to know the environment where you are going to monitor. So this is the actual receiving environment, because there has to be a causal link between the harm, if there is, that is realized, and it has to be linked to the BT cotton that is in the environment. You also have to have a strategy on how you are going to monitor. NBA has developed a post-release monitoring manual, and this manual has prescribed different regimes on how it can be done. And lastly, you need to have, or you need to indicate, how long are we going to monitor these? Is it a one-off thing, or is it something that we are going to follow throughout the entire cropping cycle? And talking of the regimes, we have, or our manual has outlined 3 ways in which this can be achieved. And one of them is, when we go out there, we can go there to monitor for compliance. This mostly happens if the permit that was issued to the applicant had some conditions attached to them. And if the applicant is required to fulfill them, once we go to the field, we will be looking at that. We also do most of the cases, and that is what we have been doing for the last 3 years, now going into 4 years, general monitoring. This is going out there and trying to establish where there is any harm or any reported adverse effects, as well as positive, because impacts can be either positive or negative that can be associated with the BT cotton. And lastly, there is the case-specific monitoring. This one is more of an experiment, and it is hypothesis-driven, and there has to be some triggers, because we as NBA, we cannot just go out into the field and start setting up experiment. There has to be some reported cases of probably development of resistance, emergence of new pests, and the applicant at that point is required to go out and set up experiment to try and verify that claim. Something that could have been reported by a regulatory agency through their monitoring networks, or something a farmer could have reported through their farmers' rapid complaint systems. When we do the general monitoring, what we are looking at essentially is whether there are any adverse effects that might come about. And remember, when we are doing risk assessment, by the time the applicant gets that approval, we have gotten to a level where we have said the risk is negligible, it is something that we can live with. And what we can do is institute some measures on how this can be managed. There are also indirect and prolonged effect, and that is why, like I said, it is done for a certain period of time, and it is not done on one site. So we do multiple sites where we are able to do comparisons, and again, that has also helped us in strengthening our reporting. We have several tools that we use. It is advisable to use a combination of 1 or 2, but at the moment we are only using 1 for general surveillance, and we are using a farmer's questionnaire. This is a very effective tool, because what we do is that we are collecting data directly from the farmer, because these are the people who are interacting with this crop on a daily basis. So they have all the information, they tell you everything right from the time they plant up to the time they harvest, and up to the point where that produce is taken to the gineries. So some of the issues that we seek to address, or we seek to understand, is how the crop is performing. Is it doing what it was purported to do? And how is it interacting with the environment? And I just gave you an example of the non-target organisms as well as the target organisms. Other ways in which we have done this, we've had a focus groups discussion where we have visited different counties And a case in point is Homa Bay and Siaya and Kirinyaga, and Embu, where we've had farmers in these areas are clustered into cooperatives, and we have a one-on-one with them. So these are members who are drawn from different cooperatives. We bring them together, have a sit down, and we get to discuss this crop, this BT cotton, and any of the issues or anything that the challenges, the successes, as well as any support or any information that they might, any new information that they might have or they might want from the government side. And by government, I mean from the regulators as well as the applicant. We have also had to do key informant interviews. There are very many people in the field who are knowledgeable about this BT cotton. And these are people we engage, and Mr. Magondu is one of them. If you want to know what is happening in Kirinyaga County, you only need to talk to him. In Embu, we have a contact person who is in charge of Embu and Meru, and the larger Tharaka-Nithi. So these are people who have all the information at their fingertips. And in addition to that, we also engage with AFA, which is the regulatory agency that is managing or regulating this technology. So now this cotton, like I said, is developed to resist the bollworms. And as you can see, if it is not well managed, you can end up with almost 100% crop failure. This crop was adopted in 2020 in Kenya. We are in the 4th year of commercialization, giving us an opportunity to be out there to monitor what is happening, the ups and downs. And currently we have about 24 counties which have already adopted. And for those of you who don't know, cotton is a multi-purpose crop. We all think that it is a fiber crop, but that is a very small percentage, which is about that 3% compared to 67%, which is the food and the feed. And we all know how the food and the feed comes in, because once you have the seed removed from the lint, you have they are pressed for cooking oil, and the residues from the cotton seed cake, which is a very good source of protein for the livestock. So these are some of the areas where we have BT cotton in Kenya, and it is spread across the 5 regions in Kenya, right from the coast, Nyanza, Western, Eastern, and Central. And some of the observations is that this cotton has been taken up by small-scale farmers who are doing about half an acre at most to 5 acres. And in one very unique instance, we were able to meet with a farmer who had about 10 acres in Meru. So you can see that it's a technology that is still picking up. People are picking it up. And farmers have organized themselves into cooperatives, so they are able to have access to the market. It's an easier way for them to access the market, where they have their produce consolidated. It is collected from one point and it is taken to the gineries. And they are also able to have training or information disseminated easily to them in a very centralized way. Some of the observations that we have picked from the field is that this BT cotton compared to the conventional, and conventional when it comes to the eastern region, they are planting the hat, and this other side they are planting the KSA. So it has a very high germination rate, unlike the conventional one where you have to put almost 12 seeds per hole. So this one, it's a maximum of 2 seeds, and the germination is very good. Another observation is that it is a very high yielding cotton, and the produce is also very clean. And the reason for this is because they do not have a frequent or as high burden of the cotton stainers, which was there, and by the time they are taking their produce to the gineries, it is already to grade 3. So most of the farmers, what they're taking to the gineries is grade 1, and for them it is a premium produce that is also fetching them some premium prices. There were no any reported adverse effects on human and animals, but that notwithstanding, there were some concerns or issues that the farmers raised. And one of them was they had heavy infestation of mealybugs, the spider mites, and these were cutting across all the counties. And the reason for this is because the farmers do not have adequate information on how this technology should be managed, which takes us back to the issues of stewardship, because some of them think that once you have BT cotton, you don't have to spray for these other pests, because that inherent trait is supposed to protect even against all these other pests. So they overlook that, and what they end up with are very heavy infestations. So as a recommendation, as even we got out there, so farmers felt that they needed that information, and they also needed to know which agrochemicals they can use to manage these pests. And I think that is something that is being addressed by the applicant through the relevant regulatory agency, and I believe that is PCPB. The other issue was the delays in planting, and most of them missed out on the planting season, and this was because the seeds did not come in good time. So you can see, as you are waiting a farmer is waiting to plant the seeds, to get the BT seeds, they end up now planting maize and other crops. In as much as they do intercropping, so you realize that you cannot just have your land bare, you needed to plant something. Some of the interventions that can be done and recommendations from our surveillance is that the responsible entities that are supplying seeds, they used to go through the government. They used to have these government subsidies. I think that one is no longer coming through. Now, most of the farmers are getting the seeds, buying directly from the agrovets, or for some of them who have an agreement with the gineries, like in Tharaka Nithi, they are able to get them in good time. So that kind of collaboration is is most welcome. They also need some training on BT management, on how this technology needs to be managed. And yesterday I had a conversation with Mr. Magondu, and he was telling me that he's had some farmers in Muranga and Kirinyaga. In as much as they're getting the insect-protected seeds, most of the times they also do the hybrids. And he's had to go out there to teach them that, you know, even the conventional one is not the same as the BT. The hybrids are not the same as the BT. You need to keep on spraying. And in as much as you're spraying, there's also a good side to it, because the number of sprays are not as many as the ones for the conventionals. And lastly, the issues of subsidies, again, is something that can be looked in, and I know this is something that AFA is working on towards the revival of the cotton industry. They are working very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture. Like I said, monitoring in the Biosafety Act has been prescribed for 20 years. So we do this for 10 years, after which data is collected, data is submitted, data is analyzed, and it is going to inform subsequent approvals. And once we do the next, or our NBA gives an approval for further 10 years, this becomes now deregulated and it's no longer followed, because we are sure that it is something that 20 years is a long time for any adverse effect to have been realized. I wish to stop there and engage with you further. Thank you very much.
Now it's time for questions. We've had 3 presentations, one from Homa Bay County, the county transformational agenda, then experience by our farmer, Daniel, then presentation by Julia and Jagi on the post-release monitoring of PT cotton in Kenya. So it's now time for questions. We can take maybe 3 questions, the first round. By show of hands. Or comments? Yes, we have one there. Somebody to take up? 2, 3. So we can start with you. You have a question? Okay.
Thank you for the presentations. I just want to share what Biba Kenya, we did some small research in 2022 where we went to talk to farmers, about 600 farmers from the counties of Kirinyaga, Homa Bay, Kisumu, Bungoma, Machakos, Makueni, and Busia around BT cotton. And just quickly what we found, this study is in the process of being finalized and published. We found there was some level of increased pesticide use after adopting BT cotton. 79.3% of farmers began using chemical insecticides, and which was compared to only 46% before BT cotton. On the area of fertilizer use, prior to adoption, we found there was increased use of fertilizer, particularly urea. This seems to negate the findings of NIAP, where there's need for localized. There was need to find out what the localized chemical fertilizers should be used because urea also has its impacts on yields. I'm sharing this because this is what we found out on yields. We found that even though there was slight increase, yield in BT cotton, the cost-benefit analysis shows that because of high cost of seed and high cost of managing the secondary pests, the farmers were not necessarily making that much money. We were not able to look at issues around soil health, which I think are important, even in the post-surveillance monitoring, and also issues around non-target organisms like butterflies, like pollinators, which I was expecting to hear from this meeting, although it was shared that they're not no negative impact was seen. But from the results of preliminary results of our findings is showing that there's increased fertilizer use, there's increased chemical use. If we look at findings from India also with smallholder farmers, there was an additional 26 chemicals that were used for secondary pests. So this whole myth that even though we reduced chemicals for the bollworm, the secondary pests also increase use of chemicals, and some of which are highly hazardous. So I think we need to be careful as we introduce this crop, just to make sure that we are monitoring this well, and perhaps if there's, you can point us in the right direction of where can we get this information on post-release findings. Are they available on the website for NBA? Thank you.
Thank you. Julia will respond to that concern. Any other question? We had one there. Okay. So we can have Director Mohammed, and then you.
Mohammed Hussein from MBA. My question is to Madam, the gracious lady. If GM seeds are planted in a farm, let's say, is there any room for, because of scarcity of land in Kenya, is there any room for cross-planting of other conventional crops like beans or maize or whatever to feed, of course, the family? Thank you.
Intercropping, thank you. Julia will respond to that. One last question.
My name is Carol Munga from the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Mine is on the experience of the BT farming. Could you kindly, probably Mr. Magondo, give us roughly what are the estimate of the capital required for you to start farming cotton? Yeah.
Thank you. So you can have, yes, last question, then Julia will start responding, then the farmer.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Christine Karaoke from the Ministry of Education, State Department for Higher Education and Research. And my question is to Julia. I wanted to know how you promote objectivity when it comes to monitoring in terms of the tool and any other interventions that are put in place so that you capture the real data in real time. Thank you.
So we can have a response?
So thank you very much. I wish to respond to, I think it's actually just one question. The others were comment from Wanjiro Kamau. And, sorry? From Wanjiro Kamau. And I think what I shared were findings, actual findings on the ground. And these were interviews from the farmers who are doing actual BT cotton cultivation. But what I can say at this point is that we look forward to reading your report. And if you need any information on post-release monitoring of BT cotton, you only need to write to us and we will be able to give you. We also have information that is coming from the applicant, and they've been able to do actual experimentation on the field, and they also have their findings. So that is information and data that we have. The other question was from Director Mohammed. And one of my photos I showed a farmer who was having BT cotton, but you could see in the background there was some maize. And this is something that is very common, especially with in the eastern region. Most of the farmers are intercropping BT cotton with maize, with the peas, and that is then the groundnuts in the sides of Ukambani, as well as the beans in Meru and Tharaka Nithi. So there is still room, and they are able to utilize their lands fully, because the methodology that they are using is what we call, they are using temporal separation. By the time I plant my cotton, it has emerged. My beans are already almost flowering. So by the time I'm getting the beans out of the field, my cotton is flowering. So there's no overlap, and they are existing in a very healthy ecosystem. There was a comment from online from John Coleman, and I think his was that in as much as the BT seeds are very expensive, this is outweighing, clearly outweighs the benefits that the farmers are getting. And I think, I'm not a farmer, but I know Mr. Magondu has talked about this severally, and other farmers that we interviewed in the field. So it is a very small price that they are paying, but in the end, they are able to reap the benefits, because the prices of cotton, that is the produce, per kg, it keeps on peaking. I think initially when they started, it was at 52 shillings, and now they are at around 72. Thank you very much. I think the other question was for Mr. Magondu.
Yes, thank you for that question. The question was about how much do you need to start a cotton farming? You don't need much. Because if it is a new land, you get the price of a tractor of your area. How much do they charge? Plus, in an acre of cotton, it fits 3 packets of these genetically modified seeds of half a kilo each, meaning that an acre is taking 1.5 kilos, and that 1.5 kilos is going with 4,500. Then, and about 2,000 for weeding, and around 1,000 for pest controls. The 3 times you are done with the cotton. From there, you will prepare yourself to find money for picking, but you have started already. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes, we have one there. That's the last question. Then we'll have a comment from the Homa Bay County Chief Officer, also giving us
Good afternoon, everybody. My question goes to, I don't know whether I'll ask Mr. Magondu or the authority, but I would like to know who is responsible for regulating the price of the seed, and if the seed is going to be regulated, what is the best price which can be brought for the farmers so that they can get money? Because at the end of the day, we need the farmers to have money in their pocket. And the other question goes to Madam Julia about the SMEs. You said you went to Krenyaga and to Homa Bay to meet the farmers. We have this authority called Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, which deals with the SMEs. Have you considered doing a collab with them so that you can get more data, since they do value chain and they are in every constituency in this country? Thank you.
Thank you. So so we have Chege, Dr. Chege, and then that will be the last.
Yeah, thank you so much, CEC for Homa Bay, for your very elaborate presentation. And I'm really happy that, you are doing evidence-based policy in Homa Bay. I just wanted to know whether you have a platform where you meet as CECs of agriculture in Kenya or maybe in the Lake Region Basin, and are they also trying to integrate, some of these evidence-based, are they trying to incorporate evidence-based policies in their development plan? And specifically, do they have a plan for cotton, where cotton is grown?
Thank you. Maybe just to start with a correction, I'm chief officer, not CC. CC is my boss. But I know that there are caucuses for CCs, and we have caucuses for chief officers where we meet and compare notes. But as I said, each county would probably have priority value chains. Not each county may want to make cotton their priority. And I mentioned that as Homa Bay, our number one priority value chain is cotton. That might be replicated in other counties like Busia, in the Lake region, but not everywhere else. I know Lamu also could be having cotton as their priority value chains. But I want to say that yes, when we meet as caucuses, we exchange best practices, we compare notes, we see what we can borrow from others, we tell others what we are doing, and if they agree, they can also borrow. And we believe when we meet together as caucuses of counties that we have to work together to make Kenya a better place. We understand that we cannot be independent of each other when we want development. So we freely really do share some of these best practices. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think there were two questions from Kasioki, and one of them was on the issues of the pricing of the produce. I might not have the details on the market dynamics, but what I know is that it is not something that is static. It keeps on changing. Who controls the prices? I don't have an answer for that. And the other question was on SMEs, and I think that's an excellent question, because in as much as we are calling this monitoring, for us as NBA, it is also like a research. These are research findings. And we cannot just use one tool, which is the farmer's questionnaire. Another way that we can do this is, those of you who have done research, is introducing the concept of triangulation, where you have data you are collecting using different tools or using different sources. So in as much as we are getting it directly from the farmers, to increase validity and reliability, it is also a good way of talking to the agrovets so that we can know what pesticides are they selling, or to the farmers within the vicinities where these are growing cotton. Now the SMEs, when it comes to the credit and support to the farmers, that can also be a very good indicator on how the adoption is going and how much commitment the farmers are willing, or how they are willing to go to ensure that they are supported so that they can do their cotton farming.
Thank you, thank you.
I think that was it.
Yes. So thank you.
Ombok for that presentation and what you are doing in Homa Bay. And this is one of the counties that you will come to see what happens after a number of years. There is a saying in the part of the Kenya where I come from that mtakuja kusema come and see, yani kuja uone what is happening there, because we can see what Governor Her Excellency Gladys Wanga is doing across there. You have your value chains that you have prioritized resonate very well with what is in the pipeline. We have just had BT cotton, which you're rolling out. You have prioritized edible oils. The next is on soybean and canola. Very soon, there will be products in soybean and canola that are enhanced in oil production, and even in selective oils like the oleic acids that form the category of oils called omega, the omega oils that are also found in fish. The next is aquaculture, which requires enriched feeds formulated again using products that are of GM, genetically modified sources. So as we deal with what is before us, before the courts, we are coming big in Homa Bay, and we want to use that, or rather that can be used as a showcase of what indeed this technology is able to deliver. We also have oils that will, canola or soybean, that is enabled to produce other additional nutrients like vitamin D and vitamin A, so that when you get the oil, you also get supplemental vitamins. The most common ones in the market are herbicide tolerance, and again, this one is more applicable in production systems that are large scale. But nevertheless, it helps in the management of weeds, and then we also have the BT technology in soybean and canola that helps to protect them from damages of the Lepidoptera larvae. So we want to appreciate that from Homa Bay, and we are looking forward to a greater collaboration with your county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, CEO. So we've come to the end of day 3, and tomorrow program is that it's half day, and the main thing that we are coming to discuss is panel discussion. These are very exciting session where we'll have 3 professors, Dr. Christian, then Professor Runo from Kenyatta University, then Dr. Martin Mwirigi from Calro. They are going to have a panel discussion on biotechnology, on biotechnology interventions in climate change, in a climate change discussion. And this is a very exciting session, and I want all of you to attend. It's half day. We've covered most of the other presentation. It will be half day, and then after lunch we'll break we'll have the closing ceremony. So for that, before we close, I want to request Christine Karaoke to give us today's prayer.
Thank you. Let us stand for the closing prayer. Let us pray in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we come before you this afternoon to thank you for the gift of this day and for the gift of the deliberations that we have had regarding this technology, biotechnology, and specifically genetically modified organisms and their place in the world, in Kenya, and in our society. We ask you that, we thank you for the knowledge that we have gained and the skills to be able to articulate the issues according to our different perspectives and the dialogues that have been initiated and the networking that is going on. We ask for your wisdom to guide our steps as we proceed to the last day of the conference and as we break for this evening, so that we can relax and continue to engage each other and see that when we come out of this conference, we shall have a position that can inform our fellow citizens who have not been participating on what their role and responsibilities are in this technology. We ask that we remain with an open mind and open dialogue and learn from each other. We also ask for journey mercies for those who are traveling, and for those of us who are here, we ask that we all have a restful evening. Through Christ our Lord, amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you. So welcome for tea. There's tea.
Recording stopped.